One day there was Once upon a time, Wisdom and Luck were walking along, arguing about which one was the better. As they walked along, they saw a baby, and Luck decided to start a contest with Wisdom to see which would be more important in the baby's life. Luck offered Wisdom the opportunity to go first, and Wisdom accepted. Wisdom took its place in the baby's life, and the baby started growing very fast and learning at an accelerated rate. When the baby was grown up and couldn't learn from the people around him no longer, he went on out into the world to find a new learning. The tailor arrived in town and saw a shop that was looking for an employee to become a tailor. So he went inside and took the job, and he learned very fast. Soon people came from all around to take a look at the clothes because he was a very skilled tailor. One day, one of the king's servants happened along the shop, and he saw the clothes and said, "You're very skilled and talented. The king should be wearing your clothes. You should go up to the castle and ask to work for the king." In the castle lived a princess who was very bored with all the suitors she'd been receiving. When she was frustrated and could take no more, she went to her father, the king, and said, "I don't want any of these men. They're all so boring." The king protested, saying, "But the last man you met, his family is very rich." The princess said, "I don't care about the riches. He's boring. I can't even talk with him. Father, I will not speak a word, not even to yell or scream from this point on. I don't want any of these men." So the king decided that any man in the kingdom, unmarried, rich or poor, may have the opportunity to speak to the princess and coerce her to speak. If she speaks to him, they'd be married, but if not, it was off with his head. Now the tailor had been working in the castle for the king, making his clothes, and one day as he was sewing the hem of a new piece of garb, he noticed the princess walking by and was so distracted by her beauty that he decided he wanted to make an attempt to get the princess to talk. Looking up at the king, he tapped him to get his attention and asked for permission to take his chance to make the princess talk. The king agreed, blaming it on the brashness and arrogance of youth, and informing him that if he failed, he would be put to death. But the tailor had to try. So a guard was summoned, and the tailor was taken to the princess's rooms. The tailor walked into the room and took note of where the princess was, but chose to outwardly ignore her. Instead, he walked over to a beautiful candelabra and began to tell a story. The story is about 3 men who were traveling through the woods, and as the sun began to set, decided they needed to set up camp for the night. They couldn't all sleep at the same time, so they set up a watch. The first man was a carpenter, and as he was watching over the other 2 sleeping, he took out his pocket knife and began to carve a piece of wood into a beautiful form of a maiden. Once he was finished carving, the man was very tired, so he woke the second man up to start the next part of the watch. The second man was a tailor, and they sat down and began to look around the camp when he noticed the beautiful carving of the woman made out of wood. But she didn't have any clothes on, so he opened up his packs and cut out fabric to make some beautiful garments for the wooden maiden. Once he was done, he realized that he was very tired and it was time for the other person to take over watch. So he woke up the third man, and the third man went to take his place in the watch. As he was sitting there, he noticed the beautiful wooden maiden with her beautiful dress, but she had no expression and couldn't talk. Using his magic, he taught her to talk, and they talked the whole night through. Once morning came, the other 2 woke up and saw that the third man had brought the beautiful woman to life with the gift of speech. So the carpenter said, "Oh, you must ride with me. After all, I carved you." And the tailor says, "No, you must ride with me. After all, I made your clothes." And the teacher said, "No, she should ride with me because I gave her the gift of speech." Now the tailor took this moment to lean into the candelabra and ask, "So what do you think? Which person should she ride with?" The tailor knew that the candelabra couldn't speak, but he also knew that the princess was listening. So he wasn't very surprised when the princess yelled out, "No, she should get to make the choice for herself." And he was overjoyed because the princess spoke, which meant that they could be married. He hurried out the door with the intent of telling the king the happy news when the guard woke up and thought that he was trying to escape from being killed. The guard grabs him and starts to drag him to the ground. Just as the guard was about to drag him to the ground and cut off his head, Luck jumps into the picture at the same moment that the princess walks out and gets the guard's attention to tell him that, in fact, the tailor had made her speak and that they were to be married. How lucky was that?